Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Jenny. I'm from JennyCarddesigns. Thanks so much for joining me today. My YouTube channel contains content that is intended to share paper crafting tutorials and inspiration with all of you. I hope that you enjoy. Welcome to another Chop It Up inspired project. I've got a wonderful project for you today. Let's take a look. Okay, in today's video, I'm going to show you how to make these really beautiful and simple envelopes for large projects. The finished envelope ends up being 5 3/4 by 9. So I have this large book of scrapbooking paper. This is just regular thin paper. I've had this in my stash for a long time and I'm not really sure what to do with it. I've been saving it for junk journaling because I've been really addicted to creating these fun journals, and I'm going to make some envelopes for my journal. Let's pick out a pattern paper and we're going to start by creating a beautiful envelope. So this paper measures 12 by 12 and I've got it inserted into my scoreboard and I'm going to make some scores. The first score we're going to make at 3 inches and 8 3/4 inches. Now pay attention to the orientation of your page when making these envelopes. So I want the top part of this page to be my envelope flap. So I'm going to turn my cardstock one turn to the right. If you wanted the flap of your envelope to be the opposite side, then you make your turn one turn to the left. I hope that makes sense. So the next scores we're going to do are at 1 inches and then at 10 inches. So that's going to be it for the scoreboard. We've got those 4 score marks. Let's move the scoreboard out of the way, and I'm going to make some marks on this paper so that you can see a little bit better. So I've just gone ahead and outlined the score marks so that you have a good visual of what this should look like at this time. I'm going to mark off the 4 corners that we're going to cut off of this envelope. So each of those corners are going to be cut away. But when we create our cuts, instead of following the score mark, I like to create the slightest little angle cut, just so that the envelope folds together nicely, and then we have a nice clean looking envelope. So I'm going to do a close-up here and show you what I've done. I'm just marking off all the sides. I create the slightest little angle from just above that score mark to the cross section where the score lines intersect. Okay, when I make my cuts, I'll show you again exactly what I'm talking about. So we're going to cut along that little dotted line there that I created, and I'm just going to cut diagonally up to the cross section where the 2 score lines meet. Okay, and I'm going to do that to the other side as well. I'm just going to come outside of this score line just a little bit and angle my scissors into that cross section. It sounds more complicated than it really is. It's super simple. Slight angle, cut, snip, and you're done. And you want to create the same process for all 4 corners. And then this is what we should have so far. So all that's left is a little bit of scoring and gluing. So let's get to that. I'm going to go ahead and crease all of the folds, and I'll use my bone folder to train the paper so that I get a nice sharp crease. And this is scrapbook paper, as I mentioned, so it's pretty simple and easy to fold. It's not thick or anything, so it folds very nicely. I'll go ahead and burnish all of those score marks, and then you'll notice on the 2 flaps here, on the left and the right, one flap will be bigger than the other. You want to fold in the smaller flap first. And then I'm going to use some liquid glue. You can use whatever you've got. I'm just going to apply a thin bead of adhesive across that flap from the top to the bottom, and then I'm going to fold the larger flap over top, overlapping that strip of adhesive, and press everything down. And then for the bottom flap, I'm going to apply some adhesive to that entire flap to close it so that it's sealed up nice and good. And then this envelope is pretty much complete. You can add some double-sided adhesive to the closing flap of this envelope when you're ready to mail it. Because this was a white backing pattern paper, I didn't like the lip of that envelope. I found it to be a little bit stark white. So I used those little scrap offcuts and lined them up on the inside flap of the envelope and thought that was perfect. So I used those scraps and I glued them down to the envelope and trimmed off any of the excess, and it turned out beautiful. I really love the result of that inner flap being the same pattern as the rest of the envelope. I really like the way this looked. Okay, so our envelope is complete. Now, what I was really excited about for this particular size of envelope is I made this for no particular reason at all. And then while I was making it, I realized what size card this would fit. And I got really excited. I've got a typical regular standard 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock. Popped it in my scoreboard and scored at 5.5 inches. I haven't cut this paper down at all. I'm just scoring it in half. I'll use my bone folder to crease my fold. And this extra large card fits perfectly snug inside of this envelope. This card measures 5.5 inches by 8.5 inches. I love huge cards. I think that this envelope is perfect and it will really pack a punch for a project, and I'm really excited to get to making some extra large cards. Super cute. If you have some Christmas pattern paper, you could make some gigantic Christmas cards, or you could just make these envelopes to store your die cuts in, or, you know, just kind of anything to organize your craft room, or just to make envelopes. I love stationery, I love crafts, and if I have a reason to make something, whether I'm going to use it or not, it gets me being crafty and creative in my space, and that makes me happy. Okay, so that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend it here with me. I hope that this video inspires you to get to chopping up some of your pattern paper. I know myself, I have a gigantic hoard of 12 by 12 paper, and I'm always coming up with new ways to use it. So I hope that my Chop It Up series inspires you to do the same. So have yourself a lovely day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!